Hi guys, it's Mrs. C here. So this week is week 6 of remote learning. We're going to be talking about Vincent Van Gogh and expressionism. We're going to look at a number of his paintings, and then we're going to end by looking at our inspiration painting for our artwork this week. So let's get going. All right, so this week we're sharpening our skills, our studio habits of mind. Understanding the art world is the studio habit that we're talking about. And this means that we can study about artists throughout history to learn about why and how people make art. So, what is expressionism? Well, it could apply to more than just painting, but we're going to be talking about visual art and specifically painting. It's a style of painting, music, or drama in which the artist or the writer seeks to express emotional experience rather than impressions of the external world. So, artist isn't interested in copying exactly what they see in nature, whether or if it's a person, a landscape, or a portrait. They're interested in conveying the emotions or the thoughts about what they see. They do it in a lot of different ways, but we're going to talk about Van Gogh specifically today. So here is a painting by Van Gogh. You can see this is not what you would see if you looked out your window in nature. We see primarily red or blue and yellow, excuse me, and we see his paintbrush marks. That's also another hallmark of this style. We see all of his paintbrush marks, short little choppy ones up here, and then we have longer, thinner ones for the reflection of the water. And then it's almost as if we can feel kind of like a breeze coming across. And we see these two little lonely figures there. So he is seeking to communicate a feeling of being outside in nature at night. And this is another nighttime scene, and this is a city scene. I believe it was Paris, and this is kind of memorializing the cafe life. So we have these places where you can go and sit and drink a cup of coffee or get a bite to eat, and you could go inside there and sit, but most people sit at these little tables outside to this day. Cafe life is still a part of Parisian culture. It definitely was at that time. It's just kind of this cozy light coming out of the cafe and spilling out onto the street and kind of warming up the streets. And you see, even though it's nighttime, just this kind of warm glow. So here is another painting. This time we're outside in a landscape. Van Gogh spent a lot of time outside painting on plein air. That means outside, literally painting outside in the air. And he would drag all of his paints and his board and set up his easel. And he's not trying to capture things exactly as he saw them, but evoke the memory of what it felt to be like in that moment. So we have these big puffy clouds that are kind of floating up in the air, and we have light pink reflecting off of all the stone surfaces, and we can see some pinks here too. And the stone may or may not have a little bit of pink in it, but just that idea that the light is warm and you can kind of feel this kind of warm spring or summer day with the person out there in the field. This one's one of his most famous, Starry, Starry Night. And again, when we look out our windows, we don't see a sky that looks like that. But I think that we can all kind of feel this sense of calm and peace. We're looking out over the valley and we see the little glowing lights in all the buildings here. And we see this big, huge, giant sky. So he's pressed the horizon line way down in this painting, all the way down at the bottom. And he gives much of the painting canvas over to portraying the sky in these big swirls of kind of the movement of the clouds, and we see the moon, and it's kind of radiating this kind of pulsing light out. It's just very electric, and there's a lot of movement going on, and a lot of feeling and emotion that wouldn't be conveyed if he had painted it in a different style. Now, Van Gogh, I know that we've talked about it before, but he did not lead a happy life. He found it very, very hard to get on with people, and he suffered from mental illness. He had problems with drinking to kind of deal with the mental illness, and he was not a success by anyone's standards of the day as an artist. They didn't understand his style. They didn't like his style. They frankly didn't really like him as a person. He got taken advantage of by people who would befriend him and then kind of take what they wanted from him and then move on. And so he just led a very lonely life. This is a picture of him shortly after he had chopped off his ear. There's several different stories about why he did it, but needless to say, he just struggled with mental illness. One thing that he did get attached to were places, and this is one of a series of paintings he did of this bedroom, and he got very attached to this place, and it was kind of a happy place for him. So this is going to be our inspiration piece for this week in our painting. What I want you guys to look at are the nice, thick, bold outlines that he uses to outline his shapes and to give them weight. He's not super interested in perspective and getting it just 100% perfect. He's more interested in conveying the sense of place. Like overall, how are we feeling in this place? This is kind of a calm blue room with the yellows, and it's very homey, it's very orderly. We're going to watch a video next, a short video that talks about this room and this painting of this room. And in it, she'll kind of show some close-ups of the window pane, the seat. And I want you to notice, and I think some of the wall and the portraits, I want you guys to notice how you can see the brush marks and the brush strokes. The paint's like physically built up on the painting itself and left to dry. So this again is our inspiration as we move to creating our own artwork this week. Let's watch the video, and then I will tell you about what we're going to do this week.
This was an artist who had spent most of his life moving and not having a bedroom of his own. He only lived 37 years and he moved 37 times. He tried to be an art dealer, he tried to be a pastor, he tried many, many occupations before he became the painter that we know today. For him, the bedroom was something that was loaded with meaning. The first version was painted in Arles in October of 1888, and at that point he really had made this yellow house his own, and his bedroom reflected everything that was about him: the bed, the paintings on the wall, the mirror, everything that was there he had chosen for this room. It's about hope, it's about a celebration of his bedroom. He's invited Gauguin to stay. Gauguin stays a mere 8 weeks. They have a disastrous end, and Van Gogh is institutionalized. He realizes that the bedroom was so important to him. He realized it was one of the best things he had ever done.
Okay, so that was Van Gogh's bedroom. Your challenge for the week is to express your emotion or to try and convey emotion through line and color like an expressionist. And we're going to do this by taking photographs of a room in our house and then drawing on them with paint.net on our computers. So here is a photograph of my kitchen, and I had 2 of my kids help me out. Now they used Seesaw because they were on my iPad, but it's the same thing. So here is the treatment that one of my daughters gave our kitchen. She kind of used some orange to go over and just reinforce the lines of that table, and she outlined the chairs, and then she added some texture to the walls, and she even outlined our dogs. Then my other daughter took a little bit different approach, and she spent some time on the flowers in the middle of the table and a little bit on the table there itself. but then she really made these chairs, and I love how they just pop, and they pop right off the page, and they just show a little bit more excitement and movement than just a plain photograph. So this week for 5th graders, your assignment is going to be to use your laptop camera to take a photo of a room in your house. Or you could also take it, since the laptops don't take great pictures, you can use another device to take a picture and then email it to yourself. Always an option. You can open paint.net on your laptop, and then you're going to open your image file in paint.net. And then you can adjust your drawing to create a posterized image for the background layer. Using that layer tool to create a second layer, you're going to then draw on right on top of your picture. And then when you're done, save what you've worked on as an image, and you're going to upload it to Canvas. Now, I don't expect you to know how to do that all 100%. Part of what you're learning this week is probably some new stuff about how to use paint.net. So you're going to watch the video that I have prepared for you next. And it's a little bit long, but it's going to show you how to use paint.net to create this effect. So I will go ahead and play that for you.
All right, hello. So I'm going to show you how to use paint.net to create your expressionist room. Okay, so I just opened paint.net. It will bring up a blank canvas. That's not what we want. We want to open up the picture that we took of our room. So I'm going to go to open, and I'm going to look for my room. I saved it here. There's my kitchen. First thing I'm going to do is I want you to notice we've got layers here. I only have the one layer open right now. It's the background layer. I'm going to do all the adjustments that I want to do to this picture first, and then I'm going to add layers that we can draw on. Okay, so the first thing, I'm going to head up to adjustments. I'm going to control the brightness and contrast. I want to bump up the brightness a little bit. It looks a little bit washed out, but I would rather have it washed out because this was a little bit dark, of a dark picture. So I would rather have it a little bit washed out than too dark. Okay, so we got that done. Now I'm going to come over to Effects, and I can go to Artistic. I'm going to choose Oil Painting, and it will probably be easier to see if I zoom in first. There. So you'll be able to see this a little bit easier. Watch what happens with the flower and the chair and the curtains. Go to Artistic, Oil Painting. I'm going to adjust. I could make it very coarse, a little bit choppy. I kind of like that effect. I can do the brush size too. Notice how when I move the slider bar, that changes it a little bit. So I'm going to use, I kind of like that look. Okay, it's going to initialize there. So already, there's our first step. I'm going to create a little bit more painted kind of look. I could also do what's called posterizing, but yeah, there we go. I did it in the opposite order the last time, and it didn't work quite so well. So I could posterize this and play around and see if I liked that anymore. So I did like that a little bit, so I'm going to leave it. I'm going to zoom back out so we can see the whole thing. Now, with the Expressionists, one kind of hallmark of Van Gogh's style was he put really nice, thick, bold outlines on things. He did not use realistic color. He was interested in conveying emotion. So I have yellow walls, a blue door, and I really like the color here. I'm like kind of a brown wood tabletop, but if I'm going to do this, maybe I'll turn my tabletop, maybe I'll do that blue too. So I'm going to use my picker tool, and I'm going to come up here, and I like that blue up there, real bright blue. I'm still in the background. What I would like us to do is add a layer. So we're going to come up here, add a new layer, and now make sure that I have this selected before I draw. If this is blue, this is what I'm live and active and working on, but I want to draw on top of it so that I'm not actually drawing on my picture. I'm going to zoom in a little bit again, And I'm going to get to my paintbrush. It's only set at 2. I would like this to be kind of a thick line, so I'm going to undo that. Now I'm trying to draw with my mouse, and it's not super straight, so pardon that. Now, if I am clicking, making separate lines for these things, if I make a mistake on a line, then that short little line would be the only thing that I have to erase. So you'll learn tips and tricks as you do more of this. I'm gonna, oops, you don't like that line at all. Okay. So I'm just adding some of the defining sides of the table on here. I'm going to scoot over so I can get the table there. Now, maybe I want to do the chairs in a different color. Maybe I want these to be a different bright color. So I'm going to go back to the background, use my color selector. I'm going to select this bright yellow, go back to the second layer here in my paintbrush, and I'm going to capture some of the outlines of the chair. I don't have to get all the details if I don't want. And I would like you guys to try and make these your own. You'll develop your own expressionist kind of style as you go. But what we are looking for is, are you using color in an imaginative way to express yourself? And are we capturing the idea that the bold outlines of things are what we want to be looking at? All right, so I have a chair table outline. I'm going to go back. I'm going to, again, select this green bottle. I'm going to zoom in really, really far so I can try and draw as neatly as possible. And then I'm going to go back to my drawing layer, and I'm going to give myself a vase. Okay, and I'm going to kind of capture some of the lines in there. And again, this doesn't need to be exact. What I'm looking for is an interesting interpretation of reality. Let's put it that way. So I'm going to go and make this smaller, more detailed brush. And I'm going to outline some of these lines. This is my daughter picked a dandelion bouquet for me, which I love dandelions, so that was awesome. Okay, so I have some flowers. I'm going to zoom back out so we can see some of the progress I'm making. I'm not going to do the whole room because it's really, that would take a long time to do, but I want to show you another thing about how you could fill in an area. So far we've been talking about outlines of things, but expressionists used, especially Van Gogh, used lines to show surfaces of things too. So I'm going to add another layer, and I'm going to come here to my paintbrush. I'm going to make it be really wide. It's very, very wide. And then I could make it solid, not so solid. And then I could do like a 30%. And I'm going to zoom in so we can see what I'm doing. I need to do my color picker. Pick a darker blue here and see what that looks like. Oops, go back to my background, pick a darker blue, see what that looks like. And I'm working, make sure I'm working on the third layer. And I can add in, I'm not sure what this is going to look like, so we'll see. Okay, it's a little interesting. I don't think I like it. I'll take it away. Now, you can do undo. I do Control Z. That takes you back a step. So I'm going to come back up here, and I am going to just go solid color and see if I like that effect anymore. Ooh, I kind of do. So I'm just kind of going in and doing some of the wood grain. Maybe I throw in some shadows here. And then I can do my color picker, and I'm going to be bouncing back and forth between the background and the foreground. So the background and the top layer. All right, I'm having a hard time talking and doing at the same time. But I just wanted to give you guys an idea of how you can start to create this expressionist kind of feel with the painting. I would love to see your whole painting or your whole room painted over. When you're talking about something like this curtain, you wouldn't necessarily have to create a every little line on here. In fact, I'm not going to do that. I'll show that real quick to you, and then I'll show you how to save it. So I'm going to go back to the background. I'm going to choose kind of this red color from the flower is the color I want to draw in. I'm going to go back to that third level, so I'm not drawing right on my thing. I don't want such a wide tool. I kind of like the 15 for this. Zoom in. I'm just capturing the edges of the fabric. I could capture that fold, following along. You can see I didn't follow along exactly, and it's okay. So I'm going to follow along this piece of fabric here. There we go. Now I'm going to capture some of the drapes where it's held up by these. There we go. So, okay, now I'm going to come over here and do my other curtain. Same way. I'm going to capture kind of the outline of it. And some of the folds that define the fabric. All right, so now we're really starting to make headway, and this is really starting to look like a piece of expressionist art. One of the things I like the best is this dark chair with the light outlining, so that might be something you think about. Think about using your imagination on the colors that you fill with and capturing folds and fabrics in a unique way. All of those things are great. You might also want to fill an area like this with pattern. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to save it. Let's pretend this is a completed thing. I'm just going to go to File, Save As. I'm going to make sure that I put this in the right place, which is Expressionism. I'm going to change this to be kitchen_1, just so I don't accidentally save over the old file. But I also want you to choose a different file type. This is paint.net. I don't want it to be a paint.net thing. I want us to save as either a PNG or a JPEG. Okay. TIFF is a big file. It'll capture all the detail, but it's a very big file. PNG and JPEGs are both nice condensed file formats. So we have JPEG. Also, make sure to use the top JPEG, the third one down. Don't use the one at the bottom. Third one down. I'm going to save it. It's going to ask me, do I want to change the configuration? Leave everything the same here. Click OK. And then flatten. Boom. You are saved. So that is it. And then you would just go and upload your work for me.
Okay, so that's it for fifth graders. It was a long video. It sounds like a lot, but it isn't. If you guys have questions on how to do it, make sure you tune into the Skype this week. I'm going to go through it with you guys on the Skype as well. You can always Skype me before then and ask me questions. You can reach out on email. I am here to help you. I can't wait to see what you turn in this week. Have fun.